Hello everyone, in this video we're going to draw a horse. We'll start by drawing a few simple shapes, then add the final drawing on top using easy line work, and then add some shading for the final result. I'll add a link to the materials used in the description below. Let's jump in. We'll start by drawing a circle as a guide for the head. And an easy way to draw a circle is to first make a couple of small marks to indicate the circle's height, and then on the sides make a couple more small marks to indicate the circle's width. Then just connect the small marks using curved lines to finish the shape of the circle. And sketch lightly at first so that it's easy to erase if you make a mistake. Also pause the video as you follow along to draw at your own pace. And you don't have to draw a perfect circle, but if you're having trouble drawing one, just trace the outer edge of a cup or a lid or anything else with a circular edge. On the bottom left side of the circle, make a small mark for the first part of the guide for the muzzle. And then just connect the small mark to the circle using curved lines to finish the guide for the muzzle. And this guide should be similar to a big letter U. Make the top part slightly wider than the bottom. Now draw a long sloping line across both shapes as a construction guide. And this guide will help you place the facial features later on. And notice how this line is slightly closer to the right edges of the shapes. On top of the head, draw a tall triangular shape as a guide for the ear. And this ear should be thin and pointy at the top. And to the left, draw another triangular shape as a guide for the other ear. And the two shapes should be similar to the letter M. And on the bottom part of the head, draw a short vertical line for the bottom part of the neck. And don't draw this line too long. And starting on the bottom part of the ear, draw a longer sloping line as a guide for the top edge of the neck. This line should be a lot longer than the line for the inside of the neck. And draw a couple of lines at the top next to the ears to make the shape of the head slightly taller. And at the bottom, draw a long curved horizontal line to close off the shape of the neck. And on the sides of the neck, draw a couple of short curved lines for the visible section of the top part of the body. And that's it for the guidelines. Now let's start on the final drawing. Inside the head, lightly sketch a small circle for the eye. And place the eye to the left of the construction guide and close to the center of the circle. And make the eye small in relation to the head. You can make the shape slightly wider too to create a more oval-like shape. And when you get the size and position of the eye right, darken the lines. Draw a thin rectangular shape at the top to create the eyelashes. And then darken the bottom edges of the initial circle to finish the shape of the eye. Add a curved line at the bottom for a crease. Make these lines thick and dark. And draw another line at the top for another crease around the eye. Inside the eye, draw a small oval-like shape and shade it in for the pupil. And to the left of the eye, draw a long curved line to create the brow. And add a short curved line on the right side to emphasize the shape of the brow. The brow should be thick above the eye. And near the bottom of the muzzle, lightly sketch a small circle for the nostril. And the nostril should be pretty big in relation to the muzzle. It's almost as big as the eye. And when you get the size and position of the nostril right, darken the shape. And as you darken the shape, use lines that are a bit more angular than the initial circle. Extend the lines on the left side and on the bottom to create creases around the nostril. And to the right, draw another angled line to create the outer structure of the nostril. The nostril and the structure around it should be just as big as the eye, if not slightly bigger. Follow the basic path of the initial guideline to draw the front part of the muzzle, but on the right side, draw an angled line to create the mouth. And curve the line up and toward the eye. And don't make the mouth too long. And on the left side, draw an angled shape for the nostril that's on the other side of the head. The bottom edges of the muzzle should fit inside the shape of the guideline. And on the right side, draw a short angled line for the lower lip. A big part of the lower lip won't be visible from this angle. And draw a couple more lines on the right side for the chin. And add an extra line next to the mouth for a bit of loose skin. Now darken the shape on the top right side of the head for the first ear. And inside the shape, draw a couple of curved lines for the ear's opening. Darken the shape on the left to create the other ear. Draw a curved line across the shape for the ear's opening. And darken the right edge of the guide for the outer section of the ear. On top of the head, draw a long angled line for the first part of the mane. And it's okay to overlap the ear that's on the other side of the head as you draw this line. Extend this line to the left so that it's away from the head. And below that, draw another curved line for the bottom edge of this clump of mane. Don't draw every individual hair strand on the mane, just draw big shapes to represent clumps of hair. And draw another curved line to create a big clump of hair. And add another clump at the top by drawing a shorter curved line. Make the tips of the clumps of hair thin and pointy. And sketch lightly at first and only darken the lines when you get the shapes right. And to the right of the eye, draw a couple of wavy lines for another small clump of hair. Now follow the basic paths of the initial guidelines to create the shape of the head. And draw an angled line along the top left side of the guides to create the big brow on the other side of the head. And then draw the bottom part of the head along the path of the guides, but make the shape slightly thinner than the guides. And on the right side, follow the basic paths of the guides to create the rest of the head. The shape of the head should be slightly thinner than the guidelines. On the top right side, draw a curved line along the path of the initial circle to create the big muscular jaw. And now draw a couple more sloping lines inside the shape just to give the head a bit more structure. And if you've made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Now darken the outer edges of the remaining shapes and lines to create the rest of the neck and top portion of the body. And add a couple of curved lines within the shapes to create the muscle structure on the neck. And make these lines long and follow the curvature of the neck as you draw them. Now draw the rest of the mane on the left side of the head using long curved lines. And the mane will be blowing in the wind, so most of the shapes are going to be on the left side of the head. So divide the mane into small clumps of curved lines instead of drawing every individual hair strand. And don't overlap the shape of the head as you draw these long curved lines. And sketch lightly at first and only darken the lines when you get the shapes right. And you can draw these lines shorter or longer if you'd like. And use thick dark lines as you darken the shape of the mane. And add a few extra lines within the shapes to create extra texture on the mane. Make the tips of the clumps of hair thin and pointy, and also make them different sizes. Use wavy lines to represent the mane flowing in the wind. And now draw a series of curved lines along the right side of the neck for the base of the mane. And this will emphasize the shape of the mane, curving behind the neck and to the left. And that's it for the main part of the horse. Now let's finalize the drawing. Erase the initial guidelines for a cleaner drawing. You don't have to erase all of the guidelines, but if you want to get a cleaner drawing and erase most of them, you can use a thin click eraser like I'm using. Redraw any of the final lines that you may have accidentally erased. And now shade your drawing. Shade the mane using a dark value. Leave a couple of curved sections on the mane blank to create highlights on the mane. You can use your eraser to alter the shapes of the highlights. Now add shadows across the shapes using a medium value. And pick a light source as you add the shadows so that they're consistent throughout the shapes. Here the light source is coming from the top, so most of the shadows will be on the undersides of the shapes. Go over the final lines one more time using a dark value to emphasize the shapes. Slowly and gradually add more value across your drawing. And shade lightly at first and gradually build up to darker values. And for light values, push down very lightly on your pencil, and for darker values, push down slightly harder. And if you want to create even darker values, you can use graphite with different grades. I'm using pencils with graphite grades of 2B and 4B. You can also use 6B for very dark values. Add a bit of value to the rest of the horse for the coat. You can leave a big section blank on the front part of the head to create the pattern on the coat. And horses have a variety of coat patterns, so you can shade your drawing differently if you'd like. And if you'd like, you can go over the final lines one more time to make the drawing more graphic. You can add a big rectangle behind the horse to create a border. And use a ruler to create straight lines on your rectangle. And shade the rectangle using a light value. And you can make the mane and the coat darker if you'd like. Just continue to add darker values across the figure. Use a small piece of scrap paper to rest your hand so that you don't smudge your drawing as you shade. Keep shading until you're happy with the result. And that's it for the horse. Remember to pause the video to draw at your own pace. Also, please visit howtodrawanimals.com for more tutorials. That's how, and then the number 2, then drawanimals.com. If you'd like to support my channel, please consider buying my books on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below. Let me know in the comments what other animals you want to see me draw. Don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep drawing.